Good morning. Welcome to a rather blustery, as you can see behind me, and wet Isle of Mull. It did make sense to come inside today, not just because of the weather conditions, but also because today's talk is based around the effect that technology is having on our physical health and especially our postural health. We all have our iPhones, our iPads, and we're also starting to suffer with iPosture because of the effect that looking at a screen has for a significant amount of hours every day. Now, quite a worrying stat at the minute is that 8 out of 10 of us will suffer with some sort of significant back pain in the future or potentially currently at this time. If you're a 16 to 24-year-old, the odds of that are even higher. And that's because they are spending such a long period of time looking at screens. So the average British 16 to 24-year-old at the minute spends around 4 hours a day looking at a screen, which is half a day's work if you think about it. And back pain represents 2 out of 10 of the most popular reasons why people are seeing their GP today. With reference to musculoskeletal problems, and a large proportion of that it revolves around back pain. That's something that we see a lot at Healthy Options. Now, one of the issues though is that all technology isn't bad. Let's face it, if it hadn't been for technology, then we'd have been pretty scuppered over the last sort of 5, getting on for 6 months while we've been in lockdown. So it's been a very powerful tool for us to be able to contact you on phones, on the computer, email, WhatsApp, Facebook, and any other digital platforms. So it does have some good points. The real issue is that the average sort of 14-year-old has more computing power in the palm of their hand than I've probably had in the majority of my lifetime. And that's not just because I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to technology. I am getting better day by day. And the only thing we need to do really to get better and better at using this little device is time. But of course, it's time spent in bad posture and often in a seated position. So something that isn't really helping us long term. And we're going to have this ongoing battle with technology against our postural health going forward, and we need to be aware of that and the possible side effects that may bring. If we don't, we are going to head for a national epidemic of back pain in the future, which could rival the national epidemic, worldwide epidemic in obesity really. And back pain and obesity combined is a deadly combination for a real issue with reduced mobility, and then the further health conditions that could come as a result of that, revolving around diabetes, osteoporosis, cancer. It goes on and on. So it's really important that that we're aware of the position we've got to in relation to our relationship with technology. We get nervous. A lot of us in research has shown we get nervous if we don't have our phone with us. That might resonate with you. We get nervous when the battery is getting a bit low. Now, understandable if this is key for work, but if not, if we feel that this is our only way to contact with the outside world, then we may have some problems going forward. And most people find it very, very hard to relax properly when they've got this close to them. So what's happening from a physiological point of view? Well, hopefully I can give you a little demo here. So I have a laptop. Most of us, I guess, at home, who work at home, will have a PC, which may sit a little bit higher, sort of this position. And there's 2 issues there really. If it's a laptop, we're constantly looking down. So after a little while, I forget about my core. My core turns off. I'm sat down, so my core has virtually switched off anyway. But instead of being here, I tend to come down. And then the other thing the human body does is it's always trying to keep you on a horizontal. It's better for your depth perception, your proprioception, your coordination. So it tends to bring our eyes up to the level. So we not only slump forward, but then we sort of crane the neck a little bit. And this puts the spine into a really unnatural position. And that can lead to some really bad upper back issues and neck problems. Because the vertebrae in the spinal cord are not sitting correctly. They're not forming this nice S shape that we're supposed to have, which allows us to be a better shock absorber. And it's the way that it's basically the scaffolding that our muscle tissue is hung upon. And when we take that scaffolding out of kilter, then we start to get problems with tendons, ligaments, and muscle tissue. So we end up with rolled shoulders. And I say that the eyes are always brought up to the horizon. It's just a natural response from our brain. And the other thing that we sometimes do, it's not always like this. When we're on the phone outside, and I probably have to stand up for this one, is, you might have seen this, the feet come apart, let me see. So my feet probably a bit wider than the shoulder, and then we do this sort of thing. So we lean back, and what happens then often is that our glutes start to, they just go on holiday. They've had it, they're out of here. So your glutes are your bum muscles. A lot of people don't realise that there's a big piece of muscle in there, and they're pretty crucial to keeping your hips in alignment. So when these guys go on holiday, which they often do, because of the way we stand and hold ourselves these days, then that can give us real issues with our hips, and then that's going to cause really bad lower back pain potentially as we go forward. So it's not just about the classic teenager slumped shoulders. It's often that we're standing up and we're hanging right back, and glutes turn off, hips fall out of alignment, and then we have lower back problems as well. And what tends to happen is our hip flexors then take over. So one of the main issues that myself and a lot of my colleagues have been complaining about since lockdown is that we're very tight in our hip flexors, our upper thighs, because we're sat down all the time, and we're getting shortening in the muscle tissue and tendons in our hip flexors, and along with the upper back pain as well. So basically, because we're sat down all the time, glutes have gone on holiday, glutes are on furlough basically, and haven't come back for a long time, and we need to think about ways that we can improve that. So in a nutshell, we need to focus on our core, and we need to try and refocus all the way through the day if we're spending a lot of time in front of the screen. So when we talk about engaging core, and Katie has done a really good piece on the website on this, we're talking about pulling your belly button back towards your spine. Or imagine you're putting a belt on and you're trying to get an extra notch on the belt. So basically sit up. If you're on a chair like this, try not to rely on the backboard, because when you lean back, then again, core muscles go on holiday, switch off. We need to be off the backboard, sat up on the bones of your bum basically, and engaging the core. If you're standing upright, we need to be engaging those glutes. So really, when we're moving around, we don't want to be hanging back, especially when we're standing. We want the feet directly under the shoulders, and we want to squeeze your bum a little bit. Yeah. So if you get up and move around, especially if you get up to make a cup of tea or something like that, when you're standing, try squeezing the bum. You're gonna think I'm mad, and then release. Squeeze and hold and release. And you'll recognize that once you do that and you engage the glutes, that your hips do move. And that's bringing them back into their natural positioning. So when you're doing the dishes, say when you're making a cup of tea, maybe making yourself a sandwich at lunchtime, why not do a little bit of that? We really need to work on posture. And something that Katie mentioned yesterday in one of the classes that we do was, if you're making a cup of tea, why not also stretch out the pec muscles, because when we spend a lot of time here with the phone, these muscles get very tight, okay? And we need to stretch them out, and we need to work the muscles of the upper back. And there's information on the website on how to do that. If you have a look under the exercise of the day routine, I'm not going to do it now because it'll take more time than I'm allowed. I better wrap this up quite quick. So basically, don't slump in the chair. Limit your time in the chair as well. Try and get up and move around. If you're taking phone calls, get up, go for a walk, get outside, get some natural light. Just try to limit your time so that we're not spending hour upon hour sat here in this position with the spine's in a really unnatural position. So, I'm going to leave it there. Just food for thought today, and hopefully you'll be able to make some adjustments to the way you're using technology to improve your posture going forward. Not the best day for a walk today, but remember, skin's waterproof, and there's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. Get a rain jacket on, off you go, get some fresh air, and I'll catch up with you later on. Take care guys, stay safe.